Okay, great. If you want to open up your book to page 54, we're going to go over Chapter 10 of Advancing Vocabulary Skills. Just to give you a heads up, the midterm, which is not for until next week, I guess, or a couple of weeks, is going to cover Units 1 and 2, and this is the last chapter of Unit 2. Okay, so what I recommend as you go through this video is that I'm going to go over both the 10 words in context and the matching words with definition, and also sentence check 1. This is the same information that is that you're going to need to do for your online exercises. So if you write it down in your book, it may be helpful for you when you go ahead and you do the online exercises. Okay. You ready? Let's go ahead. So our first one is our first word is connoisseur. My sister is a connoisseur of Southern novels. She's read dozens of them, and she knows all about the authors and their different styles. Curtis has broad knowledge of French wines, where they are made, when they are at their best, and exactly how each one tastes. He's a true connoisseur. So connoisseur is an authority. On page 55, connoisseur is number 8. An expert in fine art or matters of taste. So connoisseur is a French word, and what it means is that someone knows a lot about something, but normally it's relegated, or it's used for things related to fine art or matters of taste. And what we mean by matters of taste is like matters of style. So connoisseur really has to do with someone being really knowing in detail about something specific related to taste or style. So in our first example, we're talking about novels, which is more related to art. In the second one, we're talking about wines, which is related to, you know, taste and sort of style. But a connoisseur is someone who's very excellent in their knowledge of some specific topic. Okay. Our next word is conspiracy. The conspiracy to overthrow the government was started by two of the premier's own advisors. Although Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested for the assassination of President Kennedy, many believe there was a conspiracy to kill the president. A conspiracy is a plot. The definition that is given on page 54 is number 10. A secret plot by two or more people, especially for a harmful or illegal purpose. So conspiracy has a couple of meanings that we need to highlight. That's more than what it just gives here. So the important thing about a conspiracy is that it's secret, and it also that involves more than one person. You can't have a conspiracy. You can't really have a conspiracy of one. But a conspiracy means a secret plan to do something, and normally it's an illegal thing. Or a harmful thing. So in the first one, it's the conspiracy to overthrow the government. So this is a secret plan to get rid of the government. In the second one, it's a secret plan to kill the president. Both of these things are negative. You'll often hear, and I think that there's TV shows about this, about conspiracy theories. And so these are people who believe that who have ideas that the reasons why certain things happened are not the official reasons. A common one is there's a lot of conspiracy theories about 9/11. There's people who believe that it wasn't done by hijackers, but rather it was done by the U.S. government. Some people said, oh, Israel were the ones who did it. But the problem with any conspiracy or any conspiracy theories is that they're secret. So you can't really know what the truth is. One thing to keep in mind in terms of usage, if you look at conspiracy, you'll see that it's followed by an infinitive verb. So a conspiracy is a secret plan to do something. Okay? Next one is contrite. Dolores was especially contrite about tearing her sister's dress because she'd borrowed it without permission. Judges are often more lenient with offenders who truly regret their crimes. A criminal who seems genuinely contrite may get a shorter sentence. So contrite means sorry. On page 54, it's truly sorry for having done something wrong, repentant. So contrite doesn't just mean like, like I have kids and when they do something to each other, I make them say sorry to each other. And a lot of time, their sorry is perfunctory. They don't really mean it. They're just, the only reason they're saying it is because I tell them to. They are not contrite. Okay, contrite means that you know you did something bad and you feel bad about it. Contrite means that you're truly sorry and you really want to make up for the mistake that you have made. Sorry doesn't mean like you think, oh, well, that's too bad. It means that's really, really bad and I feel so bad, and is there anything I can do to make up for it? Okay? Distraught. The parents of the little girl who wandered off in the crowded mall were distraught until she was found. As the snowstorm got worse and worse, and his wife still hadn't arrived home from work, Jeff became increasingly distraught. And in the example, it says the distraught victim of a tsunami being treated for injuries. So distraught means upset. But upset doesn't fully capture the meaning of distraught. It's number 1 on page 55. Distraught means that you're very troubled. It also says distressed. Distraught means that you're so upset that maybe you can't be consoled. That maybe you're crying and you're crying about it. So in the first example, those of us who have children, if we lose our child and we think that maybe, God forbid, something's happened to the child, the emotional feeling there is not just like we're upset, like, oh, I got a bad grade on a test. It's a deep emotional feeling. If you were in a natural disaster and your house and your home were destroyed, you'd be distraught. You're just not upset, but you're so upset it's like your world has been turned over. The second example about Jeff and his wife not coming home, I have a specific example of that. I remember it was years ago when I was living with my sister, but she didn't have a cell phone, or either she had one and she wasn't answering, but it was the same sort of thing. There was bad weather and I didn't hear from her, and I didn't hear from her, and I didn't hear from her. Thank God she got home. But the feeling that you have is that deep upsetness or troubledness. All right, our next one is germane. Stacy went to the law library to look up information that might be germane to her client's case. It bothered Christine when her new boss asked if she had a boyfriend. That information certainly wasn't germane to her work. And germane means related. On page 55 we have germane, it's number 4, and it says having to do with the issue at hand, relevant. So germane means related to something, that it's connected to something, that it's not irrelevant, that it's on topic. You'll notice in both of these cases that germane is followed by to, not the infinitive, but the preposition to. So it means it's germane to whatever. So in the first case, in the first sentence, germane to her client's case means it's related to the client's case. In the second one, it's related to the work. I've heard a lot of students complain about professors who talk about things that are not germane to the topic at hand. So for example, I'm teaching you guys reading and writing, and I'm teaching you ESL, but if I was to start to go off on you know, my beliefs about, you know, the afterlife or God, or, you know, or something like that, that may be interesting for some people, but probably not for most people, you would say, you know, Justin, that information is not germane to ESL 52. It's not relevant to what we're talking about right now. So germane has that meaning of, it says the issue at hand, meaning whatever the thing is we're talking about right now. Is it germane means it's related to what we're talking about. Okay? All right, so our next one is lucid. I usually find computer manuals horribly unclear, but this one is lucid. The scientist's explanation of global warming was so lucid, the entire audience was able to grasp it. So in this case, lucid is easy to understand. Now, the word that we had from chapter 9, that in some ways is like an antonym to this, but not completely, but is esoteric. So remember, we said, you know, something that's esoteric is so difficult to understand because it was written for a specific audience. Now, lucid doesn't necessarily mean, isn't related to, you know, it's written generally. We wouldn't say like a children's book is lucid, you know, even though it's easy to understand. Lucid means clearly expressed or easily understood, but it means that it's stated in such a way that there's no ambiguity, that there's no lack of clarity. Lucid is a word that's often used to describe people and the way that they're talking. So for example, if you get hit really hard in the head, you're not going to be lucid. So if someone is talking to you, your speech may be mumbled, or you're not speaking clearly, so you say that person is not lucid. If someone is really, really drunk, they're not lucid. So lucid can mean, you know, can be describing actually how someone is communicating. And it can also be describing, you know, in like the first example, how something is written. Plight. The plight of the homeless can be somewhat relieved by decent shelters. There were reports of a cave-in at the mine, but it was too soon to know much about the plight of the trapped miners. So plight means an unfortunate situation. And if we look at plight, we can see that it's followed by the preposition of in both one of these cases. On page 55, it's number 9, and it says a situation marked by difficulty, hardship, or misfortune. So if you are if you have some sort of plight, it means it's bad. Not necessarily, not. No, let me not say that. It can be an unfortunate situation in the sense of like you had bad luck. So in the first instance, you know, a lot of people become homeless, not necessarily because they're bad people or they did something wrong, but maybe, you know, there's people who just don't make a lot of money, and if one thing goes wrong, they can end up on the street. In the second example, the miners, you know, they may have done something wrong, but probably accidentally something bad happened. But a plight is a negative word, not something you want to be in. All right, superficially. Nina spent a full week studying for the exam. Joyce, however, reviewed superficially, flipping through the pages of her textbook an hour before the test. This morning, the mechanic was short on time and inspected my car only superficially. He said he's checked it thoroughly later, and that this is a mistake. He said he'd check it thoroughly later and then gave me an estimate. So superficially means slightly. So in a sense, superficially is similar to perfunctory. Perfunctory means that you that you're sort of just going through the motions without really paying attention. Superficially has the added meaning of it's just an on the surface manner, not thoroughly. So superficially is related to the word superficial, and superficial means like not serious, not serious. So if you have a superficial injury, you know, it's just on the surface. It's not a deep injury. But superficially means you're just doing. You're not even doing the minimum. You're just sort of going through something without doing it in detail or thoroughly. All right, symmetrical. The children's castle was symmetrical, with a wall on each side and a tower and a flag on each end. No one face is perfectly symmetrical. For example, one eye is usually slightly higher than the other, and the left and right side of the mouth differ. So symmetrical means balanced. On page 55, it's number 7. Well proportioned, balanced, the same on both sides. So this is related to the word symmetry, which is talking about things being even. But symmetrical means that one side is the same as the other side. It's used a lot in you know, like in geometry and these sort of things. So we can say that a what's it called? Isosceles triangle? No, I'm forgetting what it's called, but a triangle where all the three sides are the same. We would say that that's symmetrical, because if you cut it down the middle, one side is the same as the other side. The same thing for a square. A square is symmetrical. One side is the same as the other side. Okay, and then our last word here is verbose. The verbose senator said, "At this point in time, we have an urgent and important need for more monetary funds to declare unconditional war on drugs and combat this evil and harmful situation." The reporter wrote, "The senator said we urgently need more money to fight drugs." Gabe is the most verbose person I know. He always uses 10 words when one would do. So verbose means wordy. On page 55, it's using or containing too many words. So verbose is negative. Verbose, the second example is a good one. He uses 10 words when one would do. Verbose means that you're using more words than you need to, right? You're going on and on and on about something when your point has already been made. So verbose, keep that in mind. Here it says wordy, but really it means using or containing too many words. All right? So let's take a look here at the sentence check 1. And I think, well, at least these first two match up with the book. So this is on page 56 if you want to go along. Claire was truly sorry for having started the argument with Sal. To show how blank she felt, she emailed him an apology. So in that case, it's going to be, and I have to give you both of them, how contrite she was, right? It says she was truly sorry. In the second one, everyone is greatly concerned about the plight of the hostages. We're not even certain they're still alive. So the hostages, these would be people who were taken captive, and they're not in a good situation. So a plight is not a good situation. So the other clue is that it's followed by of. Alright, so then the next one here, the garden is blank, with the same flowers and shrubs arranged in the same pattern on each side of a central path. So this one here, both sides are the same. So think about that. Let's look at the next one. A blank of Asian art told me that my Chinese vase is very old, quite rare, and valuable. So this is a person who knows a lot about Asian art. Okay. Number 5. In writing, it's actually easier to be blank than to make the effort to cut out the unnecessary words. So it's easier to do something instead of cutting out the extra words. So the first one is symmetrical, right? The garden is the same on both sides. The fourth one is Connoisseur, so this is a person who's an expert on the Asian art. And the last one is verbose. You know, it's easier to just use a lot of words than actually take the time to shorten our writing. All right, so number 6, during the Revolutionary War, Benedict Arnold, an American officer, was involved in a blank to help the British win. So this is a person who was in the war, who was an American, but he helped the British to win. And so we can assume that he didn't do this publicly if he was an American working for the other side. The teacher and the other students became irritated when Susan kept asking questions that weren't blank to the class discussion. So why are you going to get annoyed if she keeps on asking questions that are related or that are not related? So the first one is a conspiracy. So Benedict Arnold was involved in a secret plan to help the British win. He didn't win. And Benedict Arnold is a symbol in U.S. history of someone who is a what would the word be? Someone who betrays their own country, someone who's a traitor. And the second one is germane. People got annoyed when she kept on asking questions that are not related or not relevant to the discussion. So number 8, my parents had expected my sister home by 10 o'clock. By the time she finally walked in at 2 in the morning, they were very blank. How are they going to feel? How would parents feel if the child got home 4 hours late? Ved's teacher was so pleased with his clear explanation of a difficult theory that she wrote on his paper, wonderfully blank. So if the teacher is very pleased, what kind of word is she going to use to explain how his paper was? Okay. Whenever Mickey tries to buy a new dress, her husband is so blank interested. If she shows him one and asks his opinion, all he says, "It's fine, let's buy it and get out of here." Okay, so this husband, is he paying a lot of attention to her dress, or is he not really paying a lot of attention? So the first one is distraught. The parents are so upset that their daughter was so late. And the second one, the teacher is so happy that the paper was very easy to understand. And then the last one, Mickey's husband is not interested at all in the new dress, so he's not paying attention to it. Okay, so in class, so you'll finish off the online exercises and then also do the if you haven't done those already, and also do the questions for chapter 10. I recommend writing the questions in pencil so that if you do need to make some changes to them when we discuss them in class, you will have the opportunity to do that. So bring any questions you have. We will have a quiz in class. All right, take care. Bye.